Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Chaos Head Noah running on Nintendo Switch. I somehow made it through an awful day at school, and as always, stopped at cafe on way home. Of course, I sat in room 37. Usually the rooms around me were empty, but surprisingly enough, there was somebody in room 36 today. The door to the room was closed. I could see the desk light was turned on inside. I sighed a little as I went into my own room. Having someone next door to me made it hard to chat. I was the kind of person who always said things out loud when he chatted. Well, whatever. Time to just log into ESO. I just had to be careful not to say anything.
だよこいつら
I slammed my palm down on the keyboard, annoyed. I'd been playing for about 2 hours now. Today was just a stressful day. The pair I'd grouped with were clearly new players. As always, I stayed in the background, trying to let them have the glory for themselves, but one would always run in ahead of us and die, and then do it again. The other, a mage, refused to use any magic to help us. Our party must have died a dozen times. And then on top of that, all they did was complain and chat. Freaking idiots. I got so mad I PK'd them, took all their items, and then quickly escaped to another area. Nightheart couldn't do that stuff, but Lissalette could. That was why I came all the way to At Cafe to log in. I felt a little better, so I decided to take a break and go get something to drink. At Cafe had free drinks as well as a well-stocked soda fountain near the counter. The one problem with room 37 was that it was pretty far from the bar. When I left the room, I saw that the door to room 36 was open. I had to go by it if I was going to get to the soda fountain. I took a quick peek inside as I walked by, and nobody was there. Actually, I realized I had heard the sound of somebody getting up a moment ago. But there was a bag sitting next to the chair in the room. It was a student's bag. Decorative straps hung from it, stuffed animals dangling at their ends. They were Ghetto Froggy, the thing Nanami showed me yesterday. 3 of them, too. Maybe it really was popular. Not that I cared. If I kept staring at it and they came back, they might think I was a stalker or a thief. I decided to forget about it and go get my soda. But when I saw what was showing on their monitor, my eyes went wide. The monitor was displaying the words NewGen aggregator site. It was in a really nasty-looking, attention-grabbing font, too. NewGen. I'd been deliberately avoiding looking up anything about it. I didn't want to know the details. That was how I was telling myself that it had nothing to do with me. Anyway, was there a reason the person who just happened to be in the room next to me at a net cafe was looking at a NewGen aggregator site? For a moment, I saw the demon girl's face again, and my whole body shivered. I shook my head to drive away the negative thoughts. I was overthinking it. Yeah, I was just being paranoid. NewGen wasn't the media's favorite subject right now, and not a day went by when the TV talk shows weren't discussing it. Everybody was interested in it. There was only one reason. Yeah, it had to be. Time to forget about it and go get my soda. I put my cup under the dispenser and pushed the button for soda. Ice cold soda came down, right into the cup. The sun was setting, and it was starting to get crowded. I could see a small line of people waiting at the register. As it got later, more and more people were going to come. In an hour or so, all the rooms around room 37 would be full. That would probably be my cue to go home. I took my cup and went back to my seat. As I walked back, I took a quick glance down the corridor that led to the restrooms. I saw a girl with glasses in a Sume uniform disappearing down the end of the hall. It was Girl A, the one who'd been following me this morning. I thought I must have been mistaken, so I hid behind a bookshelf and watched the corridor for a while, but I never saw her again. I must have been imagining it, right? Yeah, I'd only seen it for a second. And there were probably a ton of Sume girls who used this cafe, a lot of whom probably wore glasses. But what if it was Girl A? What was she doing here? Was it just a coincidence, or had she followed me? I started to feel scared. I left the cafe and hurried back to the base. I'd gotten too scared to stay. I wanted to go home as fast as possible, but the streets were crowded with people, and I couldn't move forward as fast as I wanted. I was starting to feel sick. I hated crowds. It felt like everyone was laughing at me. The crosswalk turned red, so I had to stop. I took a quick look around. There was no sign of Girl A. As I headed up Dagenska Hill, walking got a lot easier. Usually I chose to take the back streets where there weren't as many people. But after what happened 2 days ago, I decided to take the main streets instead. I came to another red light and looked around again, but there was no sign of Girl A. Maybe the person I'd seen at Cafe was someone else after all. I relaxed a little, relieved, and turned around. I took a step back in shock. There, on the other side of the crosswalk, standing with the other pedestrians waiting to cross, was the girl. and her eyes behind her glasses were locked dead onto me. Her eyes were intense, as if she was trying to send some kind of message. I couldn't take my eyes off her. It was like I was paralyzed. Suddenly, her lips moved. She was trying to say something, but the noise from the crowd was so loud I couldn't hear it. I strained my eyes to see what she was saying. Who are those? My hair stood on end. Impossible. I was imagining things. I didn't know how to read lips. There was no way that was right. I shook my head and forced myself to look away. It was clear that she'd said something at least. No matter what it was, doing that to a guy she'd never met was creepy as hell. I needed to stay away from her. I needed to run. I needed to run while I could. Run. I forced my timid brain into action and ran as fast as I could. I ran in the opposite direction from her and down a side street I saw. I coiled with something and fell on the ground, hard, hitting my shoulder. Or I collided with something and fell to the ground. I gasped in agony, and as pain raced through my whole body, I couldn't tell what had happened. It was all I could do to sit up. When I looked, I saw there was a large scooter in the middle of the street that I'd knocked over. I must have collided with it. I gritted my teeth and tried to force myself to stand up, but I couldn't feel any strength in my legs. I didn't think anything was broken, but...
大丈夫ですか?
Girl A was there. She must have caught up to me at some point. She was looking down at me, worried. What the hell was going on? Who was this woman? My body wouldn't move. I was too scared. I didn't know what to do. It was too late now, but I regretted not taking the train to Shinzan.
怪我してませんか?
Her voice was timid and hesitant. Was she trying to act worried to get me to let my guard down? You're not going to fool me. I won't let any 3D girls fool me.
なんなんだよ。
え？
ついてくるなよ。僕に何の用だ。
I yelled at her. I still couldn't stand up, so I crawled away from her. If I didn't put some distance between us, I was afraid she might pull a knife on me. That terrible sight came back to me again and again, and I kept feeling like it was going to happen to me, too. She seemed hurt.
あなたが急に走り出して様子を見に来たら倒れてたので心配で。でも今は用事とかあるわけじゃないんですが、
You don't have anything to talk to me about? What does that mean?
じゃあなんで付きまとってくるんだ。
それは
She was stammering. It was really suspicious.
私、楠木優愛って言います。
I hadn't asked, but she introduced herself anyway.
実はあなたのこと一目見てなんとなく存在が気になって、それでつい。
So you started stalking me? The girl, Yua, was staring at the ground as she talked.
ごめんなさい。
She bowed. Impossible. That was my honest reaction. Now that I got a clear look at her, this Yua girl was pretty cute. I'll admit that. But that doesn't mean I could believe it. A 3D girl, interested in me? What kind of H-game scenario was that? That had never happened in my entire life. It sounded to me like an obvious lie. Did she think this would make me happy, especially when she'd been acting like a stalker a moment ago? Maybe if she was 2D, it might work, but a 3D girl like that was just a weirdo. Scary. I felt really embarrassed just being there, too. I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. 3D girls were just the worst. Even talking to one made you nervous.
僕は三次元に興味はないよ。いや、め、め、め、
I tried to say something harsh, but hesitated. But I knew if I didn't say it, she'd keep stalking me. I didn't want that.
迷惑だよ。つきまとわないでよ。
すいません。
She looked sad. Did she really feel bad about it, maybe? No, I couldn't let her fool me. I couldn't believe in any 3D person. I only believed in 2D, nothing else. I could trust Sedaton a lot more than I could trust her.
もうついてこないでね。僕帰るから。
I forced myself to stand up as I stammered out the words. My whole body still hurt, especially my shoulder. I could barely move it, and every so often I'd feel a dull ache from it. The pain was making me a little dizzy. I might have hit my head a little when I had landed. I staggered for a moment, and Yua quickly grabbed my hand.
怪我してるんですね。手貸します。
It was all I could do not to turn to look at her. I knew my face was bright red. If she saw it, she'd definitely make fun of me. I knocked her hand away violently so that I could turn away from her. My mind was going blank. I almost never had a chance to touch a girl who wasn't a family member. I could feel my heartbeat quickening.
お家まで送ります。あなたが怪我したのは、私がつきまとっちゃったせいですから。だから、送らせてください。
I appreciated her offer. I wasn't used to having anybody be nice to me, and I felt like I might actually fall in love with this 3D girl I'd hated just a moment ago. But that didn't mean I had the courage to look straight at her, and anyway, she was a stalker, and she might have something to do with that demon girl too, and I didn't want to die. So many different thoughts were racing through my head that I didn't know what I felt anymore.
お家どこですか？
深セン。
深セン？
I nodded, and then realized what I'd done. Why the hell did I tell her that? What was I expecting to happen? This was just a delusion anyway. Or, even if it wasn't, I would only be happy for a while before it got ruined at the last second. That's how it always worked out in anime, right? I could feel the death flags popping up by the second. Crap, 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 crap. Now she was up against me, trying to help me walk. I could feel her soft body against mine. Her hair smelled good. Impossible. No 3D girl would ever be this nice to me.
歩けますか？
I nodded again.
じゃあ、行きましょう。
She sounded nervous, and she was watching my feet as we slowly walked. At this point, I didn't feel like I could refuse or shake her off. Helplessly, I let her tiny body support me as we went. Neither I nor Yua said a word until we got to the building where the base was at. There was no way I could have a real conversation with a girl. Even if I talked about anime or games or figures, a 3D girl would never try to understand. She'd just tell me I was creepy. And from my perspective, there was no point in talking to worthless girls like that.
ここでもういいから。
I whispered and then watched to see how she reacted. She nodded slightly and then let go of me. I still staggered a little.
やっぱり、お部屋までついていきましょうか。
I ignored her and headed for the building's lobby. I say lobby, but it was really just a narrow hallway leading to some elevators. There was a small staircase, and when I tried to go up to it, I felt an incredible pain that almost knocked me over.
大丈夫ですか？
She ran over and grabbed me. Damn it, was she still here?
やっぱり部屋まで送ります。絶対送りますから。
For some reason, she seemed really desperate. To be honest, she'd been a big help in getting me this far. My base was on the roof, and to get there, you had to take the elevator to the 8th floor, and then go up a steep staircase. I couldn't have done it on my own. Yua didn't look that strong, but she'd done everything she could to help me get up. She'd been supporting me for so long I was out of breath.
こんなところに住んでるんですね。
She looked at the shipping container in shock. I guess to most people, living in a shipping container was really weird.
なんか、憧れます。
え？
アウトローな感じがして、いいですよね。こういうのって。
I certainly wasn't expecting her to say that. Was she trying to suck up to me? You can't fool me. I'm not letting 3D girls fool me. With her help, I unlocked the padlock and went inside. I was finally home. What another awful day. I resolved again to never leave my room if I could help it.
真っ暗ですね。電気のスイッチはどこに？
She'd come right inside my room without bothering to ask. Well, I guess it was because she'd been helping me walk this whole time. But still, I didn't really want her seeing the inside of my room. There was a whole shelf of figurines and H-game boxes on the bed, and garbage all over the floor.
もういいから、話して。
I waited for her to remove her hand, but she didn't.
床、すごく散らかって。じゃなくて、歩きにくいと思うんですけど、絶対危ないです。ソファーまで行きましょう。そこで話しますから。
In the end, I did as she told me. There were CDs and magazines all over the sofa, but she cleared a spot for me to sit down. She was really kind and considerate. Wait, I wasn't going to let her fool me. Not a chance.
平気ですか？
うん。
It was just me and her inside the room. The door was still open, and a little bit of moonlight was coming in through it, but the room was mostly pitch black. It was too dark to read the expression on her face, but the fact that I couldn't see her made the sound of Yua's breathing seem almost seductive somehow. I realized that this was the first time I let a girl besides my sister into my room, and she was also someone I barely even knew. If this was a game, it would mean she was totally into me. Maybe there's a situation where things would keep going and I'd end up kissing her. But that wasn't what I was expecting. Reality was always cruel. It wasn't like 2D, and this girl wasn't normal either. She was a stalker. How long was she going to keep standing there anyway? Now that she'd seen me home, shouldn't she be going? And then I realized, was she waiting for me to get alone so she could do something horrible to me?
明かりのスイッチは？
パソコンの。
パソコン？
The only light in this room was the desk light next to the computer. I tried to tell her that, but I couldn't.
そうか。デスクライトですね。
うん。
She carefully dodged around the garbage on the floor as she walked over to the computer desk and turned on the light. The room was finally freed from the darkness. When it was dark, the fact that I couldn't see made me imagine all kinds of different delusions, but being able to see her wasn't much better. I felt twice as embarrassed as before. I fell dead silent and quickly turned my face down. Her sudden gasp startled me. I looked and saw she was looking at the figurine of Sedaton next to my computer monitor.
これって、プラチューのセイラちゃんですよね。
知ってるの？
はい。プラチューは大好きで、毎週見てます。セイラちゃんがお好きなんですね。私もヒロインの中では彼女が一番好きなんですよ。衣装も可愛いですし。
There was a note of happiness in her voice. She seemed like she was telling the truth. That was surprising. Was Yua a...
不女子。うん。
She was just an anime fan, I guess.
あれ、フィギュアって言うんですよね。ちょっと見せてもらってもいいですか？ すみません。ずうずうしいこと言っちゃって。もう、帰った方がいいですよね。
She started to bow apologetically.
見ていいよ。
I didn't mind it when somebody complimented my wife. I guess I could be a little nice to her.
本当ですか？ありがとうございます。
She picked up Seta and began to examine her.
それは山陽堂版の覚醒前バージョンなんだ。セーラフィギュアはいくつか種類が出てるけど、最初に出たやつ。
へえ。
あまりクオリティは高くないよ。顔とか微妙に崩れてるし、ポーズも平凡すぎてあんまりエロくないし。でも服の胸元部分をキャストオフできるのは今のところそれだけなんだ。
胸元？
ちなみに僕はセーラフィギュアは4種類全部揃えてるよ。そっちの棚に制服バージョンとメイドバージョン、あと水着バージョンがある。
そんなに種類が。すごいですね。
一番評価が高いのはメイドバージョンなんだけど、個人的には水着バージョンも悪くないよ。
そうなんですか。見てみたいですね。でも、ちょっと暗くて。
もうすぐアルファから待望の覚醒後バージョンが出るんだけど、これはかなりクオリティ高そうなんだ。キャストオフも胸元だけじゃなくてほぼ全身可能だっていうし、表情もポーズも質感も言うことなしだね。あとはカラーさえバッチリなら今年発売されたフィギュアの中でも MVP 候補だよ。
アルファ？
メーカーだよ、フィギュアの。
ああ、なるほど。
Suddenly, I gasped. I realized that I'd talked way too much. And about anime figures, too. I also had the feeling I'd said all kinds of really embarrassing things about taking off clothes or sexy poses, too. I wanted to see what the expression on her face was, but I didn't have the courage. She was probably looking at me like I was a piece of human garbage. My heart was pounding as fast as I tried to look away. When she said my name, I turned to face her before I'd realized what I'd done. The look of disgust and contempt I'd expected. It wasn't there.
さっき言っていた戦闘バージョンとかメイドバージョンも見せてもらっていいですか？
うん。そっちの棚に。
I didn't know how to react. She was smiling and looking like she was having a great time.
わあ、すごいですね。こんなにたくさん。
As she stared at the shelf of figures, her eyes were smiling brightly. I couldn't believe that a 3D girl could look at these and not be freaked out. Was the world a bigger place than I thought it was?
メイドセイラちゃんってこれですね。ふむふむ。アニメの印象とはちょっと違うけど、すごく可愛いです。下着までちゃんと作り込んであるんだ。こういうの実物で見たのは初めてですけど、いいですね。私も買ってみようかな。
だったら覚醒後バージョンを予約した方がいいよ。あれは絶対おすすめだから。
そうですね。あなたの話を聞いていたら、その覚醒後バージョンは本気で欲しくなりました。覚醒後って12話のあのシーンのことですよね。
よく知ってますな、お主。かなりのマニアですな。
はい、好きですから。特にあの時の覚醒シーンは毎日録画したものを見返してます。
あのシーンって演出と作画宮地なんだ。だからクオリティ高くて当然。
宮地？
そういう神クリエイターがいるんだ。あの人の演出はマジで神だよ。アットちゃんの実況版でも神来たってなるし。
そうなんですか。すごく知識が豊富なんですね。私、スタッフが誰かなんてまるで気にしてませんでした。
監督と演出と脚本はチェックしとくといいよ。特に新作なんかはそれを調べるだけで内容の良し悪しが大体予測できるし。
わかりました。今度からそうしてみますね。
She was still smiling at me with her. She was still smiling at me with her pretty smile. A girl smiling at me. I thought that only happened in H games, but now it was happening to me. But whenever 3D girls, especially my little sister, were smiling at me, it's because they were making fun of me. She was up to something. I knew it. I couldn't forget Sedatan's words. Don't believe anybody. Don't listen to anything anyone says.
え、
こんなこと聞いていいかどうかわからないんですけど。
何？
She started to fidget a little. She was looking down at the ground and avoiding looking me in the eye.
聞かせてもらってもいいでしょうか。あなたのお名前。
名前？
I realized that she'd introduced herself, but I hadn't.
西条匠。
Suddenly I felt embarrassed. The words came out quiet and soft.
西条匠くんですね。何年生？
あ、2年。
私は3年。私の方が年上さんですね。
Oh no. That moe pose was enough to almost make me pass out. Was Yua's moe type quiet older girl? She was trying to seduce me. She was dangerous. She was definitely up to something.
それで、西条くんにお願いがあるんです。
A request? Don't tell me. Was she going to ask me to give her a Sedatan figure? Well, she couldn't have it. Nobody could come between me and my wife. I wasn't going to part with Sedatan, no matter who asked, no matter how much money they offered. If she wanted her that bad, she could go buy her own. As I stood there mentally cursing her for daring to try and take my Sedatan, Yua suddenly fell backwards and landed on her butt. She was rubbing her behind, looking a little teary-eyed.
すみません。CD を踏んづけちゃったみたいです。ケース割れたかも。本当にごめんなさい。私、きちんと片付けますから。
いいよ。
I just wanted her to go home. What was that request she asked about a moment ago anyway? Yua started to pick up the trash and CDs around her feet, even though I just told her not to. She looked so apologetic that I started to feel like I was the bad guy here.
じゃあ、足の踏み場だけでも、確保させてください。すいません。その後で、お願い言いますから。
She seemed like a mom as she moved around, cleaning things up. Someone who didn't care about what other people thought and just ran around doing whatever they wanted. Nosy and annoying. In a situation like this, was I supposed to be helping her? And then, as we both reached for the same piece of garbage, our hands would touch and we would gasp and gaze into each other's eyes. Wait, this wasn't a romantic comedy. No way was I going to help. In the middle of carefully piling up a bunch of magazines, her hand suddenly froze. She was turning away from me, and I couldn't see what she was holding.
いえ、気にしないでください。
She seemed really shaken. This was suspicious. I realized that she was in a position to see everything in my room. She might want to steal something. She might even think that there were so many figures I wouldn't notice if she took one. But I would. I knew all of my wives really well. If one disappeared, I'd notice immediately.
フィギュアには触らないでね。
はい。いえ、違うんです。ブラチューの同人誌って言うんですか？それが落ちてまして、ちょっと中身を見てみたら。
A blood-toon doujinshi? Oh, that was a naughty one.
すごかったので、びっくりしました。
勝手に見ないでよ。
すいません。
She quickly got back to work, and then when she just secured enough room to sit, she turned towards me.
それで、さっき言ったお願いですけど。
Here it was. I gulped as my body tensed up.
さっき言ったフィギュアの予約、一緒に行ってもらえませんか？私、そういうアニメショップみたいなところって今まで行ったことなくて。で、私、なんだかすごくぶしつけなお願いしてますよね。すいません。私のせいで西条くんは怪我をしたのに。
This was dangerous. I need to be really careful about how I responded. Sure, she and I had the same hobbies. She said she liked Seta, too, and she listened to the things I said like she actually cared. For an otaku like me, she was an easy person to talk to. But this was a trap. It had to be. This kind of stuff only happened in H games, not in the real world. I couldn't let the 3D world fool me. Think, what was you after?
すいません。今のお願いは忘れてください。私、西条くんがいろいろ話してくれるのが、嬉しくて。
She bowed to me. Most 3D girls were really bossy and arrogant. She was a rare exception. No 3D girl could possibly be this cute and kind. It was all an act. I was going to say no. I was going to come out and say it clearly, like a man. She looked up at me, and I could see that her eyes were damp. Was she crying? Because I didn't say anything? Had I made her cry? Please, anything but that. I'd only ever experienced anything like this in video games. My heart was pounding really fast. I even felt guilty. I'd always heard people say that girls use tears as a weapon, but only now did I realize that it was true. To be honest, I didn't know what to do. I just stood there, half stammering. I tried to say I'd go with her, but I couldn't. What if I said yes, and then the next thing she said was, "Don't take me seriously, idiot. You're creepy." I was so scared of that idea that I was struck silent.
無理してくれなくていいです。私のわがままに西条くんを付き合わせるのは良くないですし。
Her eyes were even wetter now. It felt like tears could start pouring from her eyes any second.
行くよ。
言ってもらえるんですか？
I nodded helplessly. It was the only way I could think of to get her to stop crying. The whole thing felt like a setup, but she let out a sigh of relief and then took off her glasses to wipe away her tears.
断られて当然だと思ってたのに。西条くん、ありがとうございます。
She said thanks. I managed to keep her from crying, at least. I got lucky, I guess. Why did this have to be so stressful? You couldn't let your guard down around a 3D girl for a minute. Damn it.
行くとしたらいつがいいでしょう？
What happened to that sad expression of hers? Now she looked really happy. Maybe she was making it up the whole time. If so, she had a future as an actress.
セイラちゃんの新しいフィギュアはもうすぐ発売なんですよね。
うん。きっとすぐに完売しちゃうだろうね。
だったら早めに行った方が良さそうですね。明日とか。
According to my schedule, tomorrow was a school day. This week I had to go 3 times. Of course, that meant next week I only went twice. Tomorrow was going to be an even worse day than I thought. But Yua looked really excited, and if I told her I changed my mind now, she might cry again. She had me in her clutches.
わかったよ。
I reluctantly agreed. Yua looked happy. But she couldn't fool me, okay?
西条くんは何組？明日放課後に迎えに行きますよ。
B 組。
2年 B 組ですね。じゃあ 授業が終わったら待っててください。
I nodded, hoping I could get her to leave. I was going somewhere with a girl? This wasn't a dream or a delusion, was it? I tried pinching myself. It hurt.
それじゃあ、長い間お邪魔しちゃってすいませんでした。足、もし痛かったらお医者さんに行ってくださいね。
あ、うん。
I sat on the sofa and watched her go. Just before she left, she turned and waved at me.
西条くん、また明日。
また明日だってさ。しかも手を振ったりして。
I felt a grin coming on, but forced myself to stop.
あの女絶対僕に惚れてる。間違いないね。ま、付き合うか付き合わないかは僕に選択肢があるわけだし、あの女を情け容赦なく振ってやるさ。お前は僕の女にふさわしくない。セイラよりいい女になって出直してこい。まあ、一生無理だけどな。何しろセイラは永遠の17歳だからな。みたいな。
No girl could be better than Sedaton. I picked up the figure and rubbed it against my cheeks. Sedaton looked happy.
おっと、時間か。今のところテストに出るからな。ちゃんとノート書いておけよ。今日はここまで。起立。礼。
The math teacher. What was their name again? Well, it didn't matter. Left the room and the school day came to an end. The other students were all talking about where to go after school, or heading off to their clubs or teams. Most of them immediately got ready to go home. Normally, as soon as the last chime rung, I would put my things together and go home. But today I stayed in my seat, trying my best not to look at any of the other students. Today I was meeting Yua. Normally a date with a girl would be a WKTK situation. But for me, for today, it was just depressing. My nerves were all jittery, my stomach hurt. I'd never agreed to go anywhere with a girl, and I didn't know what to do. Would she even come? Maybe this whole thing yesterday was a prank, and she was watching me from the shadows, and laughing, I thought. In a way, that might be better if she actually did come. Wait, did I even need to wait for her at all? Couldn't I just ditch her and go home? Yeah, that was the way. She was in a different grade than me. Anyway, if I ditched her here, we'd never meet again. I made my decision and stood up.
たく、何してんだ?
Someone slapped me on the back hard. I didn't need to turn around to see who it was. The only person in class weird enough to talk to me was Mizumi.
お前帰らないのか? いつもならチャイムが鳴ると同時に消えるのによ。俺密かに匠の音速直帰って名付けてたんだぜ。
もう帰るよ。
誰か待ってるとか。
え？
How did you know?
なんだよ、図星かよ。
どうして？
なんだかやけにそわそわしてたからな。教室の入り口をさっきから何度も気にしてるし。
He was perceptive, but I needed to be careful with what I said. Don't forget, Takumi, your goal is to stand out at school as little as possible. You have to be like the air itself.
別に誰も待ってないよ。
そうか？だったら今の間はなんだよ。
それは。
Crap. Mizumi wasn't a bad guy, but he could be really annoying at times like this. Read the room, jerk.
西条くん、
My whole body froze. I turned towards the voice, feeling sheer terror. Yua was standing timidly at the door. Oh no, thanks to Mizumi, I'd lost my chance to run away.
おい、なんだりゃ。どういうことだ？
It might have been the first time I'd seen Mizumi freak out like this. He wrapped an arm around my shoulder, pulled me in close, and looked me in the eye.
おい、タク、どういうことか説明しろよ。お前の彼女か？
違うよ。
I told him 1,000 times that I didn't have any interest in 3D girls.
だったら何なんだよ。言っとくが、タクの姉ちゃんとかそういうオチは期待してねえからな。引きこもりのくせに何をどうやったらあんないい女と知り合えるんだ。
昨日急に付きまとわれて。
それはつまりあれか？逆難されたってことか？え？この
He grabbed me by the jaw and shook me for a second before finally letting me go.
そうか。世の中には物好きってのもいるんだな。けどタクがまともな性癖を持ってたみたいで少し安心したぜ。
性癖って、それに彼女とは別に何も。
そうかそうか、頑張れよタク。
Mizumi wasn't listening to me. He was all excited now and slapping my back harder than before. He was definitely teasing me.
安心しろって。お前の女を寝取ったりしねえから。
だからそういう関係じゃ。
ほらさっさと行けよ。彼女お待ちかねみたいだぜ。
He pushed me in her direction and began to slowly walk forward. I guess I didn't get to run away after all.
迎えに来たの迷惑でした？
いや。
It sure as hell was. I looked back at Mizumi and he was grinning and giving me the finger. I couldn't tell if he was cheering me on or trying to start a fight. There was no point in trying to deal with him anymore, so I decided to just leave the school.
すいません。昨日会ったばかりなのにこんなお願いをしてしまって。
いや。
I was really nervous. Me, leaving school with a girl. Like a ryaju, like a popular kid. I thought this was a world I'd never have anything to do with. I never thought it would happen to me. But right now, there seemed to be an intense aura radiating from her. We were just walking side by side. How did I feel so nervous? I still didn't know who she was or what she wanted. What would she want with a creepy otaku like me?
おとといの。
いや。
She started talking out of nowhere, so I got surprised and said something weird sounding. She seemed to be nervous too. Her expression was tense. She was older than me, but actually quite innocent. It was pretty moe. Not that I could do much more than glance at her every so often. I was too embarrassed to look her in the eye.
おとといのブラチュー見ましたよね？
うん。
私、一箇所だけいまいちよくわからないところがあったんですけど、すすむくんがセイラちゃんのピンチに駆けつけてきて助けてくれますよね。でも、どうしてすすむくんはセイラちゃんが危ないって分かったのかなって。
あれは、先週の回に伏線があったんだ。セイラの携帯が鳴ってるシーンが一瞬だけ挿入されてて、着信表示で進むの名前が出てる。
そういえばそんなシーンありましたね。
山田がそういう細かい伏線をあちこちに貼るのが好きなんだ。キンゴルでも似たようなことをやってた。
山田くキンゴル？
山田くっていうのはブラチューの監督の愛称だよ。で、山田くがブラチューの前に監督やってたアニメがキンゴル。
へえ。じゃあ山田くさんって有名な監督さんなんですね。
まあ僕は好きな方かな。なんでかっていうと、
I started lecturing her on anime, and the next thing I knew, we were at Animate. We'd gotten here much faster than I expected. I'd gotten really excited and talked too much again. Yua was a great listener. Whenever I showed off some random piece of knowledge, she'd act really interested. I knew this whole thing was a trap, but I kept talking anyway. I'm so bad at speaking, and this had never happened before. It felt like chatting online. It was kind of weird.
なんだかドキドキしてきました。先に帰ったりしないでくださいね。
うん。
She went up to the clerk with an expression of intense nervousness on her face. She ordered the Seta post-awakening version figure. All I did was stand back and watch. I kept looking for a chance to run away, but she kept shooting nervous glances at me, and I couldn't move. Afterward, at her request, I showed her around the store. She was happy to find all kinds of things that she might want to buy, but I didn't have the energy left to smile back at her. Yua came to school by train, so I was forced to go with her to Shinsen Station. She might look like an airhead, but she wasn't. Whenever she wanted something, she knew just how to make me give it to her. Black. She was a black character.
西条くんって携帯は持ってないんですか？
She suddenly asked me that as we got to the station. A phone, huh? I shook my head, slightly sad.
持ってないんですか。それじゃ連絡が取れないですね。
連絡
Contact me for what? Are you going to keep bugging me instead of leaving me alone?
でも西条くんパソコン持ってましたよね。私も持ってるからメールアドレスを交換しませんか？
どうして？
そのフィギュアの発売日に取りに行かなくちゃいけませんよね。その時にまた一緒に。まだ一人でアニメ8に行く勇気はないから。
Clever.
それに
She was a clever one.
私西条くんと
I knew it, but I couldn't say no. If I did, I'd be the bad guy here.
もっと
3D girls were truly terrifying.
仲良くなりたいから。
Was it just that I wasn't used to talking to people, or was she just a master persuader? It felt like she wasn't going to go home until I gave her an email address, and yet she seemed nervous as she looked up at me from behind her glasses. For some reason, I felt my will to resist draining away. My skin felt clammy, and a cold chill was running down my spine, but I couldn't run away or say no. There was something strange about Yua, something that wasn't normal. I couldn't explain what exactly wasn't normal about her, but she definitely wasn't normal. The next thing I knew, I'd written my email address on a scrap of notebook paper and handed it to her. She looked happy as she took it, then bowed and disappeared into the station. I stood there for a solid 10 minutes with a blank look on my face, like my soul had been drained out of my body. What would you think about a girl like that? I don't know what to do. I mean, it feels like she's up to something. She has to be. Hey, are you listening, Grim? What's the name of this H game? That night, I asked Grim about Yua. It felt like I wasn't getting anywhere on my own. But that was the answer I got. To be fair, this was the same reaction I had the first time I talked to her. I was an idiot to ask you in the first place. Wait, lol, are you serious? Man, you're such a lucky bastard. I didn't think you had it in you. I thought you said you weren't into 3D girls. It's not like that. Grim was reacting just like Misumi. Maybe the two of them were actually the same person. Well, guys like you, Nightheart, who've never dated a girl in your life, often quit being otaku the moment they get a girlfriend. Your girlfriend's not gonna like those 10-minute monologues about school swimsuits. I mean, really. I prefer competition swimsuits to school swimsuits. Huh? I just heard Sedaton's voice. I'd set that voice to play whenever I got an email. I looked over at my inbox and the sender's name was... Yua Kustoki.
うわ、早速来た。
I got an email. Just now. Hmm? An email from a 3D girl. I'd never gotten one before. I gulped and opened it. Hello, this is Yua Kusunoki. Sorry for sending you an email out of the blue like this. It would make me very happy if you saved my email address in your contacts. Sorry for bringing you along with me today, but it made me very happy. Maybe because I'd never been to a store like that before. Or I think it was because I was with you, maybe? Lol. What time are you going to school tomorrow? Oh, the reason I'm asking is I want to say hello in the morning, kind of. You could sense her elegance and femininity, coming off the page, but the emojis also made her feel friendly and approachable. But it was because I was with you, Nishijo, and I want to say hello in the morning. It felt like she might be plotting something. Hooray, show me what she said. It's totally normal. Basically just a hello. Shut up and upload it. Upload. Hello, it's me. Sorry for sending you an email out of the blue like this. Okay, he just copy and pasted. I want to say hello in the morning, kinda. I'm hoping we run into each other tomorrow, even if it's just by chance. Bye, I'll send you another email sometime. Good night. Grim was being obnoxious, so I decided to type in the whole message for him. Of course, I didn't type our personal information. What is this? It feels like she's head over heels for you. Die in a fire, Nightheart. Help me out here, man. It's some kind of trap. Right. It's all a big conspiracy. You're overthinking things, aren't you? It sure looks like she's into you. You're almost at the good ending. I mean, this is impossible. I'm a creepy otaku. Why would a cute girl from the real world want to date me? Lol, dude, you're just ragging now. Help me out here. Calm down, you're just overthinking things. She and you have a lot in common, right? There aren't many nice girls like that left. I mean, the stalker stuff at the start was a little much. I knew that she was too nice. It was creepy. But that just goes to show how much she likes you, right? She's an anime fan, right? She's like the ideal girlfriend, for an otaku anyway. Get her to go along with all of your weird-ass fantasies. That actually sounded pretty appealing. No. That was just what she wanted me to think. I'm not into 3D girls. Yeah, right. You want to date her really badly, right?
そうだけど。
This is your chance to stop being an otaku. You'll never get another chance like it. I'm sure of it. This is your chance. Stop being limp and go for it. Be like Nightheart, but in the real world. Go for it. If only I could, life would be so much easier. Talking to her today and the day before taught me that. It could be fun and make me happy, but it was also exhausting and a pain in the butt. If it was that hard, I'd be better off living a peaceful, relaxing life with 2D girls. So I decided not to answer Yua's email. The fire was burning. Long tongues of flames danced within the incinerator. Inside it, a sailor uniform and several textbooks were being burnt to ash. A house in the foothills overlooking the Seto Inland Sea. In the distance, you could hear the whistles of the ships. A salt breeze gently shook the trees around the house. Despite her idyllic surroundings, the small girl in front of the incinerator, Kozue Orihawa, was in a miserable state. Her eyes reflected the red light of the fire as she watched the sailor uniform and textbooks burn into ash in the incinerator. Until yesterday, that had been her uniform, and those had been her textbooks. She was the one who had put them in the incinerator, but she must have still felt some attachment to them because she kept staring at them. Suddenly she winced in pain and put her hands tightly over her ears. She opened her mouth, but that was all she could do. She couldn't moan or cry. All she could do was gasp for breath. She kept shaking her head as if begging for something to stop. Then she collapsed, falling onto the ground. She looked up, exhausted, at the sky. She stayed there, unmoving, for several minutes. And then, suddenly, she turned around. She was staring at the house's veranda. The house was made of wood and over 50 years old. Even though it was still daytime, much of the veranda was shrouded in deep shadow, leaving it in darkness. She slowly staggered up and walked towards it. Just then, her mother appeared, as if she'd been waiting.
あら、小杖ちゃん。探してたのよ。もう荷物の整理はできたの？
Kozu nodded and sat on the veranda.
あさってにはもう、この家ともお別れなのね。
Her mother stood behind her and looked at the peaceful Seto Sea.
東京なんて行くの、小杖ちゃんは初めてよね。いいお友達ができるといいわね。
Kozu didn't reply to her mother's kind words. She didn't shake her head or nod. She just stared sadly at the incinerator in the corner of the yard and the flames that still rose from it. It was a week after, on a school day. As usual, I headed to school in a gloomy mood, staring down at my feet as I went. Fall was clearly at hand. The trees in Shoto Park were changing colors, and I was starting to feel cold in my short-sleeved shirt. Since I spent almost all my time in my room, it always felt strange when the seasons changed like this. It still felt like summer to me. I had spent the whole weekend playing ESO. Grim kept asking about Yua, but I just ignored him. Yua hadn't sent me any more messages. Maybe she'd given up when I hadn't replied. I certainly hope so. Whenever I talked to her, I always felt myself wavering, started to feel hope. But there was no point in a creepy otaku like me having hope. I'd lived my whole life without ever having hope fulfilled. That's why I'd lost interest in 3D girls. Please don't give me hope. Please don't have any hopes for me. Suddenly, someone patted me on the shoulder from behind. I turned around, expecting to see Nanami or Mizumi, but was surprised.
Nishijo-kun!
Her cheeks were a little flushed, and she was smiling at me. For some reason, she was out of breath.
後ろ姿が見えたから、もしかしたら西条くんかなって思って、走って追いかけちゃいました。
Hadn't she given up? Did she still have hopes for me?
おはようございます、西条くん。やっと言えました。土日を含めて4日もかかってしまいましたけど。先週メールを送ったんですけど、読んでもらってます？
By the time I realized I'd nodded, it was too late.
よかった。返事がなかったから、てっきり届いていないかと思って、何度か送り直そうとしたんですけど、我慢しておいて正解でした。
What did she want me to do? Was I supposed to fall in love with her? Be her boyfriend? And then we were supposed to be a happy, loving couple? Impossible. That kind of thing was for other people, not me. I wanted to do it, but there was no way I could. I still didn't understand why Yua liked me, anyway. I couldn't trust her. So it was just impossible.
西条くん、どうしたんですか？ ずっと立ち止まってるので。
I started walking fast to leave her behind, but she jogged to catch up with me.
昨日、西条くんのクラスに行ったんですけど、いませんでしたよね。もしかして、風邪でもひいて休んでるんじゃないかと思って、心配だったんです。でも、元気そうでよかった。
たまにしか。
はい？
僕、たまにしか、学校来ない。みんなから、引きこもりって思われてる。
You're disgusting, aren't you? You learned who I really am, and now you don't like me anymore, right? That's fine. I never expected anything in the first place. Go ahead, think I'm creepy, and then just leave me alone.
そうですか。でも、今日は会えてよかったです。
I didn't know how to react to that. I found myself staring into her smile. Our eyes met, and then I quickly lowered my gaze. Why wasn't she treating me like she thought I was creepy?
っていうか、たまにでも学校に来てるなら、西条くんは引きこもりじゃないと思います。すいません。分かったようなこと言っちゃって。
でも、苦痛だよ。
だとしたら、偉いです。
え？
That wasn't something I expected to hear. What was impressive about a loser like me? Eva smiled gently at me. It was a smile that could heal a wounded heart, and that's how it felt to me.
だって、西条くんは辛いのに頑張って学校に来ていますから。苦痛なら、普通は来られないですよ。
でも、僕は、オタだし、キモいし。
私、西条くんの話を聞くの、好きですよ。
What? Why was she telling me all this? Why did it feel so good? It felt like she was holding me in a warm embrace. Or like she was telling me that it was okay for me to be here. Maybe with her help I could go back to being a normal person.
大変、予例ですよ。
Suddenly I realized that there were barely any students left around us. They'd all gone inside the school building.
西条くん、それじゃあ私、失礼します。あ、今日の放課後、時間ありますか？
え？
もし、よかったら、一緒に帰りましょう。
She spoke softly, but her cheeks were turning a little red.
放課後、中庭で待ってます。もし気が向いたら、来てください。あ、無理に来なくても全然平気ですから。失礼します。
She bowed politely and headed off to the third year wing. As I watched her go, I pinched my cheek. Just as I thought, this wasn't a dream or delusion. I spent the whole day's worth of classes in a daze. I don't think I heard a single thing the teacher said. I just rested my chin on my hand and stared out at the autumn sky. Neither my classmates nor the teachers paid the slightest bit of attention to me. But Yua paid attention to me. She wasn't like the rest of those assholes. I sat there the whole day, thinking about her and indulging in one delusion after another. Before I knew it, school was over.
よ、タク。今日もデートか？この前のメガネのことは、うまくいってるんだろうな。おいおい。ニートだからって躊躇してんなよ。向こうがお前のこと気に入ってくれてんなら、付き合うか付き合わないかはともかく、やっちまうのが礼儀。
そんなことしないよ。
おい、なんだよいきなり大声出して。
ユアとはそんなことしない。
は？お前まだ言ってんの？なんで最初から諦めるんだよ。そろそろ引きこもりから卒業しようぜ。
僕は引きこもりじゃない。
That's not what I meant, anyway. Mizumi only cared about sleeping with girls. He wouldn't understand. I ran past a confused-looking Mizumi and quickly left the classroom. The fastest way to get to the courtyard from the second-year classrooms was to go across the connecting corridor to the third-year students' building and then head down the stairs, at least as far as I knew. I didn't come to school that often, so I didn't know what led where. I didn't even know where some places, like most of the special classrooms, were. So I was a little nervous when I went down to the connecting corridor. There was a girl standing in the middle of the corridor, staring up at the sky. She had a very stern expression on her face. She didn't seem lost in thought or anything like that. She was clearly in a place that would block traffic, but she wasn't moving at all. Come on, I know you hear my footsteps getting closer. Get out of the way, I'm in a hurry. For some reason, she felt like a DQN. I needed to make sure not to get closer or let her notice me. Just as I tried to walk past this girl, who I decided to call Girl B.
Oi.
Crap, she talked to me. Was she going to mug me? Or was she going to say she didn't like my face and then take me to her group of DQN friends so they could beat me up? Please, no. What did I ever do to you? I glanced over at her to find she was glaring at me.
お前、誰だ?
I wasn't sure how to answer that. I was Takumi Nishijo, obviously, but I'd never met this girl, so there was no way she would know that. She must be planning to do something really terrible to me.
すいません。
I bowed quickly, being careful not to look at her, and then ran away at top speed. I ran down the staircase in the third-year wing and out the doors, then glancing behind me, the scary girl didn't seem to have followed me. The 3D world was an awful place. There were traps everywhere. I took a few deep breaths and looked around the courtyard. The courtyard was between the pool and school building, and was really more of a corridor than a yard. There were flower beds placed at regular intervals where purple flowers bloomed. What were those flowers called? I didn't know. I saw Yua standing in front of one of the flower beds, staring down at it while she waited. She was really here. She was really waiting for me. Not for anybody else, just for me. Yua wasn't going to betray me. Maybe I could believe in her after all. Maybe she could save me. Yua looked up and noticed me, and then her eyes went wide in surprise. I stood there, looking away in embarrassment. I didn't know if it was okay to walk up to her or not. Why was she surprised? Did I mess up by coming? As I tried to figure out what to do, she ran up to me.
びっくりしました。
え？
西条くんが本当に来てくれるなんて。どうせ来てもらえないって諦めかけてたんです。でも、待っててよかった。
I was surprised. She might have the same kind of mentality I did, the kind that was pessimistic about everything. But there was one big difference between Yua and me. I was pessimistic and didn't do anything. Yua was pessimistic, but took action. That was something I really respected about her. I wanted to be that way too, I thought.
一緒に帰ってくれますか?
I nodded in response to her question. She and I headed for the school gate together. I felt kind of embarrassed as we walked home. It felt like the other students were shooting me jealous glances. The more I started to notice people staring, the more I started to freeze up. I should have known there was no way I could walk home with a girl. I passed by a teacher I didn't recognize. Actually, the only reason I thought they were a teacher was that they were wearing a suit. But did we have any teachers that young? I rarely came to school, so of course I didn't know who our teachers were or what they looked like. Sometimes I even forgot my homeroom teacher's face. The teacher in the suit looked around, seemingly lost, before heading towards the school building.
どうしました?
I quickly shook my head and started walking alongside her again. base was 10 minutes away from school, which was a bit farther than the train station at Shinsen Yua used to go home. So I guess I was walking her home instead of the other way around. Out of sheer habit, I walked us through Shota Park, cutting through it diagonally to shave a minute or so off the commute.
西条くんって朝よくこの公園でパンを食べてませんか？
あ、うん。
How did she know that?
やっぱりよく見かけたんです。でもいる時といない時があって、今日ようやくその謎が解けました。学校にたまにしか来ないからだったんですね。あ、別にそれがダメって言ってるわけじゃなくてですね。素朴な疑問だったので。
うん。
Yua suddenly stopped and looked over at the bench where I always ate breakfast. Right now it was empty.
なんだかここに座っているあなたの背中はすごく辛そうに見えて。
She suddenly leaned forward just a little bit and ran her fingers across the back of the bench.
何度も見かけるうちにだんだん気になってきて。
The bench was right in front of the fence surrounding the lake. Since I always sat facing the lake, I didn't need to worry about anyone gazing at me. There was also a small watermill right next to it, which was another reason I liked it. It served to partially hide me.
ここ最近は姿を見かけなかった日は心配でご飯も喉を通らなかったりしてたんです。
Really? I hadn't noticed her watching me at all.
バカみたいですよね。一度も話したこともない人の心配してるなんて。でも話しかける勇気もなかったので。
So that was why she was acting like a stalker at first. She wasn't a stalker. She was just really worried about me. Maybe.
ちょっと座ってみてもいいですか？西条くんがどんな景色を見ていたのか、私も知りたいから。
I didn't really have a reason to say no. I nodded, still looking out at the lake. She put her bag on the bench and then quickly sat down. Then she sat upright with good posture, looking at the lake. It was so quiet, so peaceful, and she was right there with me. The soft wind made ripples on the water and gently rustled through her hair. Was this what it was like to have a normal life? It was just a normal day, a normal situation, so why did it feel like I was about to cry?
ここで朝食をとるのって気持ちよさそうですよね。
I watched her from the side as she quietly spoke. If we were in an H game, this would totally be when I asked her to be my girlfriend. She'd say yes, we'd kiss, and that would be the good ending. Depending on the route, maybe we'd even engage in some naughty outdoor fun.
私も今度やってみようかな。
She tilted her head to look up at me. Unable to speak, I turned my gaze towards her bag. As I stared at the 3 gecko froggy straps on it, I cursed myself for being too lame to talk to this girl. Wait a second. Did I just see something? What was I looking at? Ghetto Froggy, a character popular with high school girls. I'd seen it somewhere before. Where? I didn't understand. I had this sense of deja vu, but I couldn't remember. Was my memory always this bad? I was pretty good at memorization. I always got good grades on my tests. I was pretty smart. So why? Why couldn't I remember something so important? At least it felt important. Where had I seen them? If I looked at them closer, maybe I could remember. I wasn't sure what would happen if I did remember, but to escape from the awful feeling of not knowing, I almost unconsciously reached out my hand towards the 3 straps. Yua suddenly knocked my hand away. Huh? Huh? As I stared in shock, she looked away from me and awkwardly tried to stand up from the bench. Her hand brushed against her bag, the bag with the 3 ghetto froggy straps. And as if I was watching in slow motion, the bag fell slowly from the bench and landed on the ground. If it hadn't been zipped up, so her notebooks and textbook were spilling everywhere.
私ったら何をやってるんでしょう。
Just a few minutes ago, I would have thought the whole scene was very moe, but now all I could do was stare in shock because, by chance, one of the notebooks that fell to the ground had fallen open, and the small memos and newspaper clippings in it had scattered everywhere. It must have been some kind of scrapbook because all the clippings and memos had to do with one subject. I could see it clearly. NewGen.
なんて。
My voice was hoarse. She was hurriedly trying to pick up the clippings and notes and stuff them back into her bag. She stood up, holding it tightly to her chest. Her smile was gone, replaced with an awkward expression.
それは。
She didn't answer me. Why don't you answer me? Come on, say something. If you don't answer, I'll think you're hiding something. And just when I was about to believe you, just when I thought you were going to be on my side, just when I was starting to believe that.
誰も信じちゃダメ。誰の言葉にも耳を傾けちゃダメ。
Sarah was right all along. All 3D girls were garbage. Even Yua didn't like me. She was just trying to get close to me for some reason of her own. Maybe she was going to turn me over to the police. Maybe she was going to threaten me. This was awful. Just awful. Just when I was so close to forgetting all about that murder. The cops had never come to say anything. I'd convinced myself that I'd never have to deal with it again. I didn't want to get involved. What was Yua after? I turned around so I could run. But Yua grabbed my wrist from behind.
逃げるの？
Her voice made me shudder. It was so cold I thought I might freeze. She didn't seem anything like the girl I'd been talking to a moment ago. And she was gripping my wrist with incredible strength. She was holding it so tightly that it was physically painful. I thought for a moment that she might crush my bones. It hurt so bad. I tried to shake her off, but she wouldn't let go. Instead, she pulled me closer, and I almost fell backwards.
逃げるの？
She whispered in an emotionless voice, right behind me and right into my ear. I shivered and slowly turned around. The color in her eyes was insane.
逃がさないよ。騙してたことは謝るけど、お互い様だし。あなただって隠してたことあるよね。
Hiding something? There was only one thing I could think of. Somehow, for some reason, she knew that I'd witnessed the crucified corpse and the killer. That's why she'd approached me. She really was the clever one. Everything she'd ever said to me was a lie. That she'd gotten curious about me when she saw me for the first time. That she liked Bloodtune. That she wanted to go buy the Sierra Post-Awakening version figure on that day it came out with me. When she'd smiled at something I'd said. When she said she wanted to get to know me better. When she said she was worried that I didn't come to school. Even when she said I'd impressed her by coming to school. It was all lies. I clenched my fists in rage and anger. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Why was I ever willing to believe her?
本当はもっと時間をかけて調べたかったんだけど、バレちゃったからしょうがないよね。あなたに聞いてもらいたい話があるの。聞いてくれるよね。聞かないなんて言わないよね。あなたは聞くべきよ。聞いて。聞くでしょ。聞かないなら。
If I won't listen, then what? She was like a totally different person now. That peaceful, easygoing manner that she'd had was completely gone. Now she looked cold and unapproachable with a terrible intensity about her. Her words were cold as ice, as cold as death itself. The signs of weakness and helplessness she normally showed were nowhere to be found. I didn't want to hear those words. I tried to close my ears. But I couldn't. She still had my wrist in her grasp. She wasn't gripping it as tightly as before, but she still wouldn't let go. I couldn't move my hand. With her free hand, she reached into her bag and took out something metallic and showed it to me. I gasped in shock. My heart felt like it was about to leap out of my chest. My mind began to race. I had my free hand over my ear, but I let it drop, and I heard her voice sounding slightly disappointed.
この十字架に見覚えあるよね。
Of course I did. I knew exactly what it was. It looked like a cross, but it was actually a stake. Not many stakes had such an elaborate design. At least I'd only seen some once before. That night, scattered on the road. That night, pounded by the demon woman into the wall. That night, pinning the corpse to the wall.
やっぱり知ってるのね。知ってるんでしょ？知ってるに決まってる。知らないなんて言わせない。知ってなくちゃおかしい。知ってるよね。知ってるよね。
I shook my head desperately. An awful sweat was forming on my brow. All I could do was try to wipe it off as I shook my head no.
これ、あなたの部屋にあったのよ。あなたの部屋、ベッドの下、床に落ちてた。落ちてたの。落としたよね。それとも捨てた？とにかく落ちてた。落ちてたの。
When did she search my room? The day we first met? When I hurt my leg as she walked me home? When she was staring with shining eyes and a cute face at the Sarah figure?
この杭、外国製のすごく珍しい杭なのよ。それと、ニュージェネ第3の事件で使われた杭と同じ。同じなの。同じよね。同じなのは間違いない。同じよ。遺体を壁に貼り付けにした杭と同じ。
I was sure of it. This girl thought I was behind the NewGen killings. She thought I was the murderer. Was she trying to be some kind of detective? Yua Kusunoki, teen detective? You know what I thought? Die, bitch. I meant it too. They weren't just empty words. I mean, this stuff might have worked in an anime or a video game, but I knew that her theory had a fatal flaw. I'd seen the killer. I'd seen her with my own eyes, that demon. The girl whose name I didn't know. She wore a Sume uniform. She was close.
だから
She looked down and sighed softly, her grip relaxed, and at last I was freed.
それ以上でもそれ以下でもないです。ただ、あなたが知ってるかどうかを確かめたかっただけ。本当は、まだ言うつもりじゃなかったですし。
What did she mean by yet?
それじゃあ、もう一つ確認させてください。あなたには、予知能力がありますか？
は？
My jaw dropped. See the future? What the hell was she talking about? What did that have to do with the murder? I stood there confused as Yua reached into her bag and pulled out several full-color printouts.
予知能力があるって思わなきゃ、納得できないような画像データをあなたが持っていたから。
The Gouda photos that Shogun sent me. Why did Yua have them?
これ
あなたはどうして、ニュージェネ第3の事件の再現画像を持っているんですか？しかも、この画像が流出したのは、事件の前日です。あなたの使った PC にキャッシュが残ってました。
I got those photos from some guy named Shogun that I'd never even met before that day. I didn't make them. They should still be in my download history. I know. I could show that to Yua. Wait, where did she get these? How did she know they were still in my computer's cache? When she came to my room, she wasn't there long enough to search my computer.
まさか君が将軍か。
Was she trying to set me up? Was Yua behind this whole thing? Was she one of the NewGen killers trying to use me as a scapegoat to distract the police from the truth?
助けて。
This wasn't fair. Why me? Because I'm a creepy loser? Because I don't have any friends? Yua just shook her head silently.
その画像は、アットカフェ、ルーム37の PC から拾ったんです。あなたの PC もできれば調べたかったんですけど、その機会はさすがにありませんでした。
The room next to room 37, the one I always used at cafe. She really did think she was some kind of detective. She looked just the slightest bit sorry as she stared at me. For just a single second, she looked like the old Yua. She kept that expression on her face as she rustled through her bag again. This time, she took out a sheet with printed text on it and offered it to me. I had an awful premonition. The logical part of my mind told me I shouldn't look. But I had to. If I didn't find some way to resist, they'd pin it on me.
それが、あなたのすべてです。
Everything I was? Did she steal all my private information? Was she a hacker? My heart pounded as I looked at the printout, but instead of my private information, it was just a chat log.
Huh?
It was a log of Nightheart and Shogun.
そのログ、変ですよね。
え？
What's strange? It was just a normal chat log. I remember the conversation I had with Shogun.
ナイトハルトと将軍の発言時間が全然噛み合ってないんです。
あ、
Hmm? What was this? What was going on?
そこにあるナイトハルトは西条くん。発言時間は9月28日の午前3時台。そして翌日、あなたはアットカフェに行ってます。西条くんがアットカフェに行くのは学校帰りと決まってる。そして学校に行くのは週に 2.5 回。あなたのクラスメイトから聞いたんですけど、先週あなたが学校に来た日は、月曜日、水曜日、木曜日。先週の月曜日は9月29日。将軍の発言時間と同じ日です。
What? What was she talking about?
ルーム37の PC のチャットログを調べさせてもらいました。そこから分かったことは、
She paused for just a moment, before looking right at me and delivering a cruel truth.
あなた一人の自作自演。
Don't look at me.
将軍は、
Don't look at me.
あなた自身。
何も見たくない。何も聞きたくない。時間は一定じゃない。記憶には矛盾がある。視界にはエラーがある。地球は回ってない。これはきっとゲームなんだ。
Alright, why don't we stop it there? This is Unapostrophe. You've been watching Chaos Head Noah running on Nintendo Switch. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.